and welcome to Cult Movie Club, where today we're going to be talking about soundtracks on vinyl. Plan on doing a 2-part episode for this one, so in the future I might go through some CDs on soundtrack that I have as well. I've also got a couple of tapes, today we're going through vinyl. It's not a huge collection. I do have it's not a huge vinyl collection, but I do have a vinyl collection. But this is just going to be the soundtracks we're talking about on here because it's a movie channel at the end of the day. So starting with probably the soundtrack to what I think is one of the greatest films of all time, and it's possibly one of the greatest soundtracks for a film also. This is great vinyl. It is Blade Runner, which was done by Vangelis. This isn't the original. This is a repress. It's a very, very good repress though. It's a real heavyweight vinyl. It's black vinyl. It sounds amazing. I love this soundtrack. It's definitely one of the best for me, and that is like probably one of the best films ever made. Next is one that I've had since 1992 or something like that, I think. It's not really playable anymore, to be honest. It's very crackly, but I've still got it and I don't plan on getting rid of it. It's Terminator 2 soundtrack, which is not quite as good as the soundtrack to the first film, however, is still pretty iconic in its own right. This is the same guy who did it as well. So yeah, like I said, I've had this since 1992, so it's not in the greatest condition. Next is Top Gun, which, bring on the cheese. This is there's some great tunes in here. Obviously, Danger Zone is a mighty track. The Top Gun anthem, how good is the Top Gun anthem? And obviously Take My Breath Away, which is probably the biggest hit of this album at the time. Iconic film, iconic music. Staying with the kind of cheese, we're going to go with probably one of the best disco albums in my opinion, and it is the soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever, which has pretty much got all the hits of the Bee Gees in one place. Along with a few other bits and pieces around the time. It's a very early John Travolta film from the 70s, and this was like in the charts for years, I think, in the 70s. But you don't have to be a Bee Gees fan to know most of the tracks off this album. That is a must-have in my opinion. I've never actually probably seen the film all the way through, not recently anyway, but such a great soundtrack. Again, staying with the cheese. Not the biggest fan of this film. Don't mind it, but it's not really to my taste. But it is an iconic soundtrack. It was one I saw in a charity shop once, so I was like, yeah, go on, I'll pick that up. It is the Dirty Dancing soundtrack, which has obviously got the biggest hit on it I've had the time of my life on, along with some other 60s tunes. Not really a big fan of the film, but next, again, not a big fan of the film, but gets the score by Vangelis, who did the absolutely amazing Blade Runner soundtrack. This has also got some great music on it, but film music wasn't really for me, but again, it was a charity shop buy. It's a charity, it's a fire soundtrack, which has got some really good tunes on it, one being the actual theme, which everyone knows. Next was a film. Soundtrack was Stanley Kubrick film. It's Clockwork Orange, which is mainly comprised of classical music, which was obviously used in the film. This, I believe, is probably the original because it's not in the best state. It is playable though. It does play quite well. But yeah, this was one that again I found on a market or something like that. It's a bit aged, but it just adds to it really. Next is a soundtrack to a film called Stormy Monday, which features a track by B.B. King, but is mostly done by the film's director, Mike Figgis. It's mainly a jazz soundtrack. I haven't actually seen this film. I do believe Arrow put it out a few years ago. It's got a pretty obscure cast of Tommy Lee Jones, Sting, and Sean Bean, and Melanie Griffith. So it's probably, I don't know much about the film. Might be one that I keep my eye on in the future. But yeah, that's a pretty good soundtrack, especially for like jazz and stuff like that. The title track's great. It's a 10-minute kind of blues tune. It's very good. Right, so on to the last few now. These are ones, these are like special ones. This one I picked up from a record fair. It's the Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth soundtrack. Hellraiser 3 is not my favourite Hellraiser film, to be honest. But I did see this at quite a reasonable price. And another reason why I did pick this up is because the vinyl looks absolutely amazing, as it is blood splattered vinyl. don't know whether that's going to come up on the video or not, but you can see there, that looks amazing. It was one of them things that I saw and had to have, and you know, it looks really cool. So that's that. And the last two here that I've got are Arrow. So Arrow put out a soundtrack line a couple of years ago, which you can still get hold of them. They were like limited numbers, but I'm guessing they didn't do that well because they're still trying to flog him in sales for like a fiver. They are really cool. So the first one I've got is Eric the Viking, which is a yellow vinyl. So these are proper heavyweight. It's a double vinyl. Let's get this out. There we go. So, and last but not least, this was Miko Mastakis' film, which again out called The Zero Boys. And what's interesting about this is it's probably one of the first soundtracks by Hans Zimmer, and this is on a coloured vinyl also. So I don't think this is a double vinyl. No, it's not. This is just a single vinyl. So I'll just pull this out, and I think this is blue. Yeah, it is. There we go. That's the Zero Boys vinyl from Arrow. This is a pretty interesting soundtrack, actually. It doesn't really sound like a Hans Zimmer score. It's very synthy and stuff. It's not very orchestral. Like I said, it's one he did back in the day, very early. I think when he was like in the UK, because he did a lot of his early soundtrack work in the UK. There's a little insert in this as well, some information on the soundtrack, and about the mastering and stuff like that. So pretty small collection. It's one that when I see him cheap enough, I do pick him up. It's when I'm on Mecca Fez or anything like that, I'm more interested in rooting for soundtracks. But yeah, that's my collection so far. Do you collect soundtracks? If so, what are your favourites? Like I said, in the future, I might go through some CDs. I think I've got a couple of cassettes also. So maybe we'll look at doing that in the future. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.